Right, greetings, it's 5:01. My sleeping pattern's been just destroyed and interrupted by this covert electronic pulses or force or transmission or directed energy, harm, non-lethal weapon, non-lethal aggravant that doesn't leave a mark, and it's denied by people. Don't want to know about it. They can't, unless it's happening to them, they're not bothered. They don't want to get involved. That could be your own family in your own house. So you could be a child being having voices put in your head, and games playing, and you get the spiteful things people might say, which reinforces the experience. Like people who aren't saved aren't aware of all spirituality and what's true spirituality and what's dark spirituality. People think yoga's innocent, but you're just leaving yourself open, worshipping something or applying your attention to some method of meditation which has got a lot of other things woven into it, and there's all different styles and versions of this practice. But what you're omitting to worship leaves you open to darkness, and you might have a wonderful spiritual titillation or experience, but it's not a true spiritual experience. It's a deceptive, lying spiritual experience. Mediums don't authenticate people's authority like a police. You wouldn't let a milkman arrest you or a dustman pull you over and give you a speeding ticket. These people, and there's no way. How do you check something from another world or another dimension, or if something's going on in your mind and you're not very well, you've become experiencing pressure or something not working right, like from an injury, and it's damaged one of the components and it's having symptoms. How can you tell the difference if you think you're speaking to aliens, or you're speaking to spirits, or you're seeing things? How do you don't know you're not got an infection or something, or an abscess in the brain? Or there's so many different things that can cause these spiritual experiences, and you can open your up. You could be the most healthiest person and open your up to experiences. Just get this little point out of the way, because this is just a quick update and some very observations I must get down for generalising on this list. But I wanted to just journalise what daily life, as it is. Call a spade a spade. So I've just finished all updated, all my videos, edited process, just got to upload them, and I just want to squeeze this on. But I want to just mention how things can appear like there's a conspiracy, and why. Now, if you think there's two spiritual powers, one's darkness and one's light, and the fruits of the two are different, say, but the dark one imitates the true one. So it looks like a pineapple, smells like a pineapple, but when you bite it, it's not. It's like dirt, but it gives an effect. It's a medicated dirt, and then you go off on a trip and you think, wow, that's spiritual, but there's no good in it. There's no real substance and fruit, joy, peace, understanding, wisdom, love, all the good things, caring, helping you to be mercifully forgiven for your transgressions, long-suffering, patience. There's not that fruit. It's a vain delusion, but it's got appearance of mystical spiritualism, like witchcraft, like yoga, like New Ageism, like all these new crystals, divining. It's all of the same yin and yang, CND, it's all associated to paganism, and they try and give it that has crept into the organised Christian mindset. So it's just like a merging of all the two mixed together, and it's false. From a biological point of view, if you're just like got that kind of mind, when someone in a role of responsibility and you're relying on them for care, or they could potentially inconvenience your life and get one over on you because they're in a position of power to go, no, I don't like you, I'm not passing on your information, people can be like that, let's be honest. That's a mission of the right way and the correct way. However you want to justify it, the whole world become evil and say, well, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's because there's no good in it, so it's not going to see any wrong in itself. And if you don't know right and wrong, so when people, and this happens on a daily basis, so when people admit to do the right thing, there's a vacuum there for the wrong thing. Now everyone's got that in them, and when people are behaving like that, you're in a united, because of the darkness inside you is one, and we've all got that oneness in us. We're all connected to that one spirit, or that one motive, which is natural and negative. And there's no justifying it, it's wrong. And when you do it, you know it's wrong, and if you keep doing it's wrong, you just lose your conscience. And then you don't care, you just become a cold-hearted. You might have a charm and a smile, but really deep down you're empty. And you've got something to fill that emptiness with, some vain delusion that you are involved with, or you've got in your mind, or you believe in, that's keeping you going. It's giving you that false hope. So Satan, the devil, which is this spirit, and if you don't have Christ, you are of that spirit, it's in you. You may choose not to listen to that spirit and do right, like 90% of the time, 90% of the day, every day, or you might be all up and down, or you might be doing consistent 50% of the day, or there might just be the odd flicker in the day when Satan's behind you, and it overtakes you. You react to something badly, and then you go, oh. And someone else might have done something wrong to push that button, and you've reacted wrong. So, both offences are wrong, and both offences cause injury to all concerned. That's like a fiery dart of Satan. But what I'm observing is not the omissions of somebody doing the right thing at the time of contact and need. There's somebody deliberately interrupting. It's not just the hand of not doing the right thing, allowing the spirit of that motive into that person's life. This is people interfering on purpose and being a devil, playing mischief to overturn people's minds around me. This is what I'm sensitive to, because I've experienced it and I know it. I had it at work. They used to change my shift, and see, the discipline was the shifts would be written on a chart, and your shifts would be worked out and dedicated, and it was your responsibility to, as soon as that was done, to copy your shift down so you know when you're on duty throughout that 7 days, so that you could plan your day off, and you could do this and you could do that, and if there's any change you would be notified. So I'd be doing my shifts,
and someone was rubbing it out and changing it, and then that was the supervisor who would put the chips up there, and that was in cohorts with one half of the partnership who didn't like me, and worked through the supervisor who also didn't like me because I stood up to them, and I pointed out, that's wrong, and they don't like it, you see. Oh, you're just like a bully in the playground. She's image, and all the residents were like, she was the top dog. I thought, I'm not having this. She hated it, and then she saw me as a threat, but I wasn't a threat. I just didn't like the behaviour and what had developed in that, under the pretense that you're there to care, all the hypocrisy. It's all lip service, just going through the motions with a majority of people. And if those people get into a position of responsibility and they get under the radar, the people that put their trust in them, and they start running it their own way in the face of looking to do what you've got to do by the law, but in their hearts they've got their own idea of doing something, right? And that's in all of us. You see something, and if something is unjust and there's a real need, I break the rules. Just to bridge that gap, not to stray too far, but just to work a way around a stupid thing that's going to cause a lot of inconvenience, and it's a waste of time. You're there and you could resolve this right here and now, and I want to be the wiser, that kind of thing. Not rebelling to cause a lot of problems. The rules are there for a reason, but sometimes those rules are not right. There's a lot of things that are unjust, and they're made unjust on purpose, and it not only affects the people caring for people, it affects the people in the care, and both there's a wedge kind of that law is not what it should be doing, because the people not always doing what they should be doing, so the rules get changed to accommodate the slack. And then it's like kicking it up the road, and it's just like a sinking ship. And then the people who are running and responsible try and fight back, and then they start putting the onus on their staff. So if anything goes wrong, you're just expendable, and they get another one. So it saves their business, and the discrepancy between the authorities and the way that puts these care people in, and they've got it's like a bat and ball. It's like the same with GP surgeries, bat and ball, bat and ball, bat and ball, bat and ball, and then you're the patient, and you end up being a bat and ball, bat and ball, bat and ball. And that's regulation. That's nothing to do necessarily to do with the doctors. It's to do with how they're controlled and regulated, and then that causes that effect. And then they're struggling to financially upkeep, so that puts them under pressure. Then they compromise, because you get all these salesmen selling medication. I've met all these people who go around and sell brewery rights to landlords and stuff, licensees and stuff. From the brewery they have a representative, and they might work for many breweries. The same in the tobacco industry and shops. They're a supplier, they're a mediator between the suppliers and the shop, and they come round with all their list of products and their range of suppliers, and they hook you up on a contract, on a deal, and then you'll be serving that associations, and you may never ever see them or know what door it's coming out of. It just arrives at your shop and you pack it into your shelves. It's like breweries, they deliver your beer, you're working for the brewery, you're not making your own beer, you're not a freeholder of the property, because most people have been squeezed out of business for this monopoly, you see. So people become dependent on these big conglomerates to survive, and then they get all these hireling staff to run it. It's not real. It's not a community roots traditional pub where they grow. They do it. They're all self-sufficient, and that's been made. It's like farmers. It's all been made to choke them down so they don't succeed, while all the commercial monopoly You know, it's like Wendy Miller and and Chigley. It's just all nothing new. So I wanted to cover that. That's what I experienced, and all this stealth, covert, non-lethal, crowd control weapons, that sort of thing. And there's such a range of uses, and you know, there's sound, can hurt you, can make you sick, can target certain areas of your organs, just make you ill. Females get sexually tormented. You know, they fire at their private parts and whisper in dirty, crude suggestions. People go, "Oh, it's just the demons and the devil." Well, yeah, it is in the men who do it and the organisations who torment people, like a virtual pet, and then it's all denied, you see. "Oh, I don't want that happening to me." And you don't want it to happen to anyone, but you don't want to keep your mouth shut, otherwise it'll just carry on going. And it makes you wonder why the authorities and the law just drawn back on this, and they just call they're trained to call the nut house, and they believe what their superiors tell them. "Oh, this is what's going on. Don't take any notice of those tinfoil hat wearers, they're deluded. Listen to what their family is saying about them." It's that kind of rig. It's a control. They can control your opinion here, control your opinion there, torture the person behind the cracks, between the COVID bubbles. What people don't see, you see, because they're watching the one-way media. So I thought I'd do my own one-way media, and then you can compare the two. Right, so one correction I want to make on one of my latest video. For some reason I put the 16th of November, but when I looked at the date, let me just clarify again. It's only the 15th of November, right? And I thought, well, why did I say the 16th? Then I remembered. And another mistake I made, I said I did go to hospital. It's I think it's Sunday today. I went to hospital to visit my dad last Friday, 2 o'clock, and I've said, oh, I went last Friday, but I didn't. It was a Wednesday was the last time, and that was the first time, so I've only been to see my dad twice. And I only really wanted to see my dad because all my life, and I don't know what's been passed on, I don't get reports on the phone, so I've had to go through all this chopping, and then ended up discovering that they're open, and I thought, right, I'll go and pass on my love and regards to my family, myself, and see what what is happening. But the people on the ground, they're just told what to do, so you're asking all these people who are not really sure what other people are doing, and they may not necessarily be there. The doctor might not necessarily remember everything about all the detail and who's doing what, so you're like scratching around to find out what's going on, what's been passed on. Now I made a video. If you followed this, you've seen what I made. Now I didn't expect my dad to grasp it or understand it. I just wanted my dad to have some reassurance to read or hear in case he's inside, because everybody knows in the care industry, right, when old people go demented, they can still hear you inside. You know, like you go to like a real handicap place and someone's like dribbling and they're not really with it in the physical sense, but inside they're quite clever and they're quite aware. And if they've got an understanding of language, and they somehow that's been developed, and they've got a grasp of, or at least the atmosphere when people say something, and they can like feel either the tension or the lack of something that they've experienced before that's not there now, so that's their language. But people with dementia or people with a stroke don't mean just because they're physically or their brain's not quite there, they might be all there inside
to be reached, because they say, oh, you get all the, in elderly care homes, you get all the family talking about their business. I had it with my mum when she was having a brain tumour and seizures, and the family sit there around chatting, not realising my mum's hearing all this, and she can't communicate back. And then you might you start having a laugh, and the person's there dying, thinking, oh, my typical family, come around here just to talk about gossip and have a good old chinwag and a laugh. And then on the other hand, my mum wouldn't resent that to her family, because she'd be just so grateful that they're there. But the frustration that people experience, I would just wanted to breach that with my dad, you see. And with my mum's experience, we had all this. We were being told, we don't want all your mum's family coming here. And I said, well, I don't want my mum's family coming here if they're going to upset my mum. I said, but I'm not going to stop them coming. Would you please let them keep them in the room? Call me, I'll arrive as quickly as I can get there. And then make sure we're on the same page. And then I could just say, look, go in one at a time. But everyone's put out, you see. People have got families, people have driven long ways, and and you're being told one thing, but when they were telling them another thing, you see. And then that made me look bad, and then it stirs resentment in the family, and they start reacting on it. Oh, you said this, we heard you. Well, no, you've only got half the story, and someone's been feeding you a load of rubbish. And that's how things set on fire, and you're unjustly treated. And then you see the hypocrisy in it, and then you just think, well, I can't deal with this anymore. I love my family, but they're not. Can't go through that when somebody's not agreeable with you, or not understanding about what you're going through, and not listening. So you are both blocked from one another, in a sense, to have that relationship. And this is what I was finding with my dad. So I said the 16th, and I've written it on the text on the video, and I thought, why did I say that? Well, when I went to see my dad, and I took my laptop, because I tried to offer to buy a telly. I just wanted my dad to have that fuming love greeting from the video I made with text, and just me speaking to my dad, and speaking to people around him about things of my dad, like his likes, his needs, having a bit of a laugh kind of thing. And they'd probably take things I said literally and then react on it because they're looking for something to react on. This is where I'm trying to cover my bases. And the sort of little things that go on, which are anomalies, and I've just recognised one that I want to get down, which whether by the admissions in life of doing what's making these mistakes, right? But this is not a human absent-mindedness, or this is a deliberate thing. And then I took my laptop in, because I don't, I say, look, will you just pass on the love to my dad? Oh yeah, we'll do that. But do they, you see? And then when you speak to people, no one's got any idea that you exist, or they've been told anything about you. Everyone's been given a different impression. This is how people can be controlled. Oh, they don't need to know, so we can get that under there. I can see it all, right? So I said the 16th of November. Why I said that? Because when I was sitting around my dad, just like left on my own, I went in, and I did meet the doctor. She approached me, and she said, like, I'm just going to do my rounds, we'll catch up. I said, yeah, fine, I'm just going to go and sit with my dad, and you have an hour. And I'd already used up half an hour, because I was late, because I had to walk, and I gave myself that extra half out of it. I was still late. So I thought, right, I'm going to make use of the hour, just pass my love on to my dad. And he opened his eyes at least, and it wasn't so. He was a bit more responsive the first time,
But then I was invited into the physio, and then I could see the engagement between his carers, and I could tell that they were getting a little bit of progress and a little bit of feedback. And all I wanted to do was put my dad's mind at ease and help them understand what I know about my dad, but I was cut all away from that, and I keep being cut away from that by the regulation. So you can't sit down and correlate. You're not invited to the care plan meeting like all the staff are. You're not involved. Even if you're a law-abiding citizen with responsibility, you're cut out in the decision making. And you should be in the medical area, but that doesn't mean your input's not vital to that medical process for them to do their job. But regulation, get away from it, leave us alone to do it. And some people don't mind that, and some people get a good treatment and everything's fine, but not everybody sees what other people are getting. People who are dependent and vulnerable are getting abused, and they're getting people are being told to lie, and people are being told to do this and do that and trip him up so we can cover our backs. I've had it before with that hospital and the doctor surgery that were associated to them, and they pass the problem on, and they go, I don't want it, I'll cover it up. You go, well, I don't want it, and I'm going to pass it back here. And this is what and then it's a constant fight, and then each day goes by, you get tired and more worn out. They're still persecuting you in your bed, stopping you to get to sleep, trying to make you ill so they can get you in their hospitals under the ignorance, and and it'll all be done with a nice face. Oh, nothing wrong to see here. It'll be cold, like psychopathic and indirect. So, sitting by my dad, just trying to arrange. First I took the computer in and another memory stick with a music, with all these like a slide photograph viewer, and I put it on the Windows media editor, made a video, processed it, so it's just titled it, so it's just music and photographs of my dad's, of his garden. So it's a familiar connection to what he was part of. Without me there, he's amongst strangers. He doesn't know what's going on from the minute, 'cause he's got dementia. And they're making out I'm an idiot and I don't understand these things and they've cut me out. Well, that's the impression they've been getting told. And that gives them all a fluffy, that pats them on the back. But it sharpens them up when they turn around and look at you and give you daggers. And you go, why are you giving me daggers? Well, it's because it's been rumoured to do that, because they're being controlled and handled and given the bait. So I was sitting by, and I wanted to get this nurse who was a bit dragging her feet, and she had something on her conscience and she couldn't look at me and she kept looking away. And I said, look, I've spoken to the doctor and you're the one to get that done. And she was in earshot of me speaking to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, get that done, recorded and logged as your dad's property. So the doctor was there. This is a personal laptop, my laptop, because fair enough, they won't plug memory sticks into their computers. I totally overlook that, but yeah, I think that's right, I wouldn't. But it was my laptop, my personal laptop, well, it was my mum's, and it's break really, but you can play music on it. So I made these files on my computer, put them on a stick, took the laptop in with the controller, the adapter, sterilised it completely, washed it and disinfected it, and then cleaned it, dried it, and then bagged it. And same with the memory stick, same with the earphones, and bagged that, put that in my bag, just so I wasn't taking anything risky into the hospital. I even disinfected my bag, I carried it in. So I arrived with the computer and I put it on my dad's side table, and all the adapters in the bag, and then I put the earphones that are in a protective rubber case. They all fold up, and the memory stick was in there. And I said, well, you're going to need me here, because I just wanted to plug it in and play it to my dad so he's got something, and then allow other people, only people in my dad's care, to have the password, not leave it lying around on the side. Oh, that'll be alright. Well, will it? How do you know? You're not looking on, you're not even concerned about my own needs. And they're looking around for, oh, we don't know if you can do that. Oh, we've got to get it pack tested. So all this delay, weeks, about 2 weeks, all I've wanted to do is know and hear that my dad's he's had some human contact, and they've been saying, oh, your family's worried. You know, mine wasn't put at rest, and they don't know what the treatment I've gone through from one person to the next. You know, and that's not, and a lot of it is organised, and the way it's set up to process people, because it's the lack of the right way, and it's the lack of the truth, and it's the lack of love, it's the lack of charity. And then they use all the frills and the box of charity, and they speak it, but they don't do it, and it's not in practice. Although among that you've got charitable people in that mechanism, among it, thank God, who are holding it all up, are doing all the work. You know, a lot of the people in the NHS are very expensive mops, but there's no bucket, and they're useless. So they just stand around doing nothing. And that's what it's full of a lot of the time. And I'm sure people, if they're honest enough, they would go, yeah, here. You know, there is some truth in that. I'm not saying that the people are useless. I'm saying now that the people are robbed of that talent. I don't want to attack the intelligence of the person and the gifts of that person that I'm referring to, or the types of person, or the moments that a person's are like that. They might not be like that every day. I'm not there all the time watching every single minute, but just those impressions I've had and experiences through life of it all. And you think, well, they're just like a mop, you know, loads of mops in a cupboard that stand around doing nothing, and all the people get all the money and the red carpet, and everyone else gets you know, the workload on the donkey, and they've got just as much stress and problems as the families coming into the hospital they care. So that they can relate, you know, they understand, because their families go through it and they've been through it. They know what it's like to go through it. They know what the pitfalls could potentially be, because they've seen it. They might not have seen everything, but they got an idea that, you know, the realities of life and tragedy, and, you know, pressure, budget cuts, and the strain that puts on everybody. So we all have to suffer, you know. And then you get them saying, oh, we're all in this together. No, you mean you're in the garden, we're in the pool with no water and all bog and rubbish at the bottom, and you're throwing your rubbish down there and dropping us like paper ladders to say, oh, you know, help yourself out. Here's the regulations. You just got to climb the paper rope ladder to get out of your circumstances. And if you can't, you're a loser. Because we're all out here. We all get red carpet treatment, so could you. We've all been raised up in that image, so can you. So I had all this trouble, concern about, well, you know, that would benefit my dad. He'd see the photographs and the music. I didn't expect him to comprehend. It's just something that they can play, that if they start doing it now, and it's looped a little, like 5 minutes a day, or he gets to watch a bit of it, or whatever he can endure at any moment. I just wanted it to be up and running. Oh, they're looking around, can we do that? Can we pack test it? Yeah, we can. I said, yeah, you got to pack test it. You can go and do that and get the ball rolling. You know, book it in as my dad's property, go and get it pack tested. And I said, I'm not impatient. I said, I don't mind if I've got to wait a day or two. I just said, I'd just like to get the ball rolling, so my dad's got that connection with his family and the outside world and things that are familiar. Still not going. I still don't know if that's going to be followed through on. Because I looked for the memory stick I took in last time that was also meant to be signed in for property. It's gone. And I had so many things on my mind and list that I haven't covered, and had to ask that I forgot to ask about that. I was just flooded with questions, and I got most of the things I want concerns to the people I wanted to speak to, and I discovered that there's only one G3, there's not two G3s. But that could have been used as a confusion, because there is two stations, or there might be more stations, and the number I was given, I was absolutely told that was the point of where he was. That person absolutely denied it and said that it's another ward, but there isn't another ward, it's one ward. There's another station within the ward. So was that person mistaken? But that person was the one who deliberately lied and emphatically said he's not in any part of these two wards, which is one ward. So they're giving me a false impression that I said that there's two wards on the phone. I only repeating what I said, but discovered the reality of myself because I asked at the desk on Friday, is there two wards here? No, it's only ever been one G3 stroke unit. I thought, that's what I thought. Is there two halves to it? No, not really. But there is two desks. Oh, right, I was told there's two wards and there's a separate unit the person had to, but that may be that person's understanding, so you allow for that, right? But what I wasn't allowing for was being lied to. Emphatically no, there's no visiting. We don't care that we're not phoning you, and I've been told to lie, and I'm going to lie because I've been told to. So when I challenge, and then I was told to challenge her because they knew that they were lying, because the person I spoke to was letting me know, well, they do lie, you've got to challenge them, right? So that out of the horse's mouth, you see, so they're lying to keep people away. So I'm suffering all the other selfish people, and I'm being put into that category before I even get my concerns across. And I could have avoided all that with just a conversation with the right person who could correlate it onto everybody else. Is that person there? No. Is that person meant to be there? No. That's what I'm trying to wake people up to. The people who regulate this care have got no idea, and they've never been needing that sort of care, because they probably get the royal treatment. And they've never cared for somebody, and never had that yoke on them, and they've never seen somebody suffer and die unjustly, and you've just got to suffer it. And the people that it's dumped on, they've got to suffer mopping it up. So so then they start regulating. Oh, we've got to protect those people, and they do the regulating. They make it worse, and they put more pressure on people because they're not listening. They're stupid. They're not just measured. And all the staff go, oh, not another Wally running the NHS. Who they called in this time to pick it up? Not Branson, I hope. It's that sort of, who can bail out the NHS? And then they put someone in who's part of trying to ruin it, and no one's got any authority to do anything or use an initiative. It's like the police force. They have to ask Sarge if they can do anything. Oh, do you mind if I do arrest this person or go out on this? That's not a policeman. Policeman's given the area, that's yours, police it. Don't need to report to me, but we need a report, but you're the law there. We all represent the law. We're not one's not above the law than the other. One's keeping an eye on that it's functioning lawfully and properly and smoothly. And then information's correlated to a main storage bank of crime records, and then it goes through the criminal process. There's all that correlating to go on, but the law officer should be the law. So he can, if his sergeants selling bootleg whiskey and smoking marijuana in the station, they've got a duty to deal with it. Oh, we can't have you doing that. Otherwise, no one's going to take us seriously when we go to arrest them. So it will cause a failing and breakdown of the law. Well, people are just so dead in society. They've been walked on so many times that they're indifferent, really. They've had enough. Oh yeah, whatever, we've heard it all before. Just cold soup, getting ready to be chucked out because of the behaviour of the the majority of fat liars and people who take the biscuit and eat the packet and, you know, dob up the crumbs in a frenzied fight for the last little bit of other people's lives that they're squeezing to get a thrill out of, and they might not even realise that they're doing it, just addicted to it and blinkered by their addiction like a junkie. And these kids are like crying, and the mother's just like jacking up and falling asleep, thinking that they're, you know, that they can manage a family, when they're completely reprobate and detached. Anyway, so I was sitting by my dad, trying to get this computer going, so I tried to get the ball rolling. I thought, well, I'll keep an eye on that. I wondered if the woman doing that was the one I spoke to on the desk, because she's working at the desk right up in front of my dad, and she like looked away, and I said, you will follow that up, you will book that in, won't you? Oh yeah, I'll get onto that. And she couldn't look at me, and then she said, oh well, no, we can't do that. And I said, oh, now you're trying to undo what I've just agreed, and what you've heard I've just agreed with, now you're undoing it. It needs to be pack tested. And she's like, I said, well, you can get that going, can't you? Oh yes, I can get the pack tester to do it. I said, I just appreciate if you'd get that going. And, you know, I'm not being demanding. I just said I'd be grateful if you could get the ball rolling, so it's there if I get to visit, or if the staff who are the physio working with my dad, when they're there in their little time, I don't know how long they give my dad, about half an hour, possibly longer some days. I suppose it depends on how much time they've got, how many patients they've got, and how much they can, a minimum requirement for my dad under those circumstances. So I suppose they're always adjusting and moving around and, you know, accommodating their needs as they come each day. So got that ball rolling, and I sat down and I was just writing a few notes and a list of things, and I was trying to find out who do I give them to, because this is another department that do my dad's food, and they're phoning me out of the blue. They give me their name and who they're working for. You basically get an idea of what they know, and again, they don't really know very much, because they're ringing to ask me things I've already regurgitated to every single person as much as I can think of, and it just goes, yeah, we don't want to know that, we just want to hear this, and then they just ignore all that, even if it's a crime or anything, or you've been lied to. You know, you don't know if they pass that on or just go, oh, I'm not interested, just here to do a job, I don't care about your dad. You know, you don't know what's in people's hearts and minds when they say one thing because they have to do it, and what they really think and feel about you or your loved one, or their opinion of you. Oh, you're not good enough, you're pikey, or you're a sponge. They get, you know, a biased impression, unjust measurement, and they judge you by that unjust measurement and treat you like that because they're self-righteous, so they treat you badly. They're not like straight down the middle, like the people you know who, if you're straight, you know they're straight, being straight to you at any particular time. They might not be straight all the time, it might be like that. Just like I could be like that. I could be straight and then cussing, getting upset with somebody, and just heat of the moment, you say something you don't want to say and you don't want them to hear you say it, you know, and we all do those kind of things. So as I had that moment and I was writing notes, trying to find out who do I leave these notes to, no one had a clue. Who do I speak to about this extra food these people were requesting? They're not there. And I thought, right, I've got to use my own initiative, and the person who spoke to me had written a list of Dad's food, so I had to stick it up there and hope it remains. But I won't be, if it's gone, I won't hear any news, oh, thanks for these other stuff we got here. I'll only see, I might not meet them or ever see them. So I noticed on the thing today, I was looking around for the date and the clock, right? Couldn't see anything anywhere in the ward, but right on the wall in front of me, just above my head, was a clock. I think it was like
about 12 minutes to 3 in the afternoon. I thought, oh, there's the clock, there's the time. And then a date in big letters for people who are old and poor eyesight. Today's date is Wednesday. I thought, yeah, I know it's Wednesday, but what's the date? Because I wanted to write the date down. Today's date is Wednesday, the 16th of November. And I thought, hang on a minute, I'm sure it's around the 11th or something like that, because I had my appointment written down, which was Friday, which was the 13th actually. But I knew it was less rather than 16th, and I was looking around for someone to ask, is that date right? Today's date is, it wasn't an old date left there. And you think, well, was that really a mistake? Was that somebody just making a mistake? But I've acted on it as, I didn't act on it as the truth, but that's what tripped me up in my mind. Because I make mistakes like that. Sometimes I say the opposite thing I mean, and I don't recognise I've done it until I play it back on the video and go, oh, I said there before, I called it the other day, I said, in my sinful life, when I was unsaved, but I didn't say that, I said before I was unsaved, but what I meant was when I was unsaved before I was saved, you know. And I say things like that, like petrol is water, or water is petrol, or I get numbers the wrong way around, I get let, you know, the dyslexia, I've got that mildly, and with numbers, which I suppose maybe a symptom of injury or development or learning to speak, you know, development, you know, anomalies, you know, like genetic or biological inheritance, something doesn't function quite right, you know. We've all got that. We've all got a family history of those sort of things. If you understand DNA and inheritance and all the records that you inherit a complete record that you don't have access to, because you are it. You know, it's in you, and you are it. You're the new version of it, and you carry it. So if you've been through a real, like the Jews, for instance, you inherit information and what they learn through that process, through that computation of life. You are part of that continuation of that life. So you inherit all the trauma. So if you've got a family through trauma, your children will potentially develop the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, although they've never had a traumatic experience, like dissociation. Like just taking so much, you just disconnect, you just switch off. Or you crack, people crack, it becomes too much and they start going out of their mind because they can't cope, so they're breaking down. And I've cracked a few times. You know, I have been brought back from absolute complete madness for a moment, because I was, you know, in my own sin, and also the sins of the world were like really doing me over in the corner. Satan was doing me over, and I just cracked. You know, I just couldn't take them out. You go all distorted and weird. But thank the Lord, it brought me back to my senses and my own mind. But that's still potentially in anyone to be. You know, you put a soldier, prisoner of war, in a isolation, deprivation, torment him, keep him from sleeping. You go insane. There's no hard person on the planet that can possibly, you know, survive it. Not without the Lord helping you get through it and manage the symptom severity of each trauma bit. You know, each place where you're failing, you can't handle it anymore. But it ain't gonna go away. So he will take the brunt of it, and he will give you a clean page each day, and it rubs all the stuff away that's gone. That's the only way I've been able to cope. So I can only praise God and give God the glory. And people praying for you, people who prayer works. You know, when people pray for you, you know it. You don't know who's praying for you, but these things just come up. These intercessions are acted upon. So that's why it's important, you know. But you still got to do your part. You can't just like do nothing and expect the fire to be put out. You got to chuck the water on it.
But there's times when you can't do that, or you can't be in a position to do that. So you intercede for someone to do that for the Lord's behalf, or the Lord to do it directly without any physical intercession. You know, I'm not in the driving seat. I'm just a child and a humble servant and a bit of a donkey, really. But beloved, I'm one of the Lord's sheep. So that anomaly tripped me up, and I repeat it, you see. So that, you know, that could just be a simple mistake. That could just be a simple anomaly. But that seems a bit of a bad mistake if you're working regularly and you know what date it is. The last day. It's the sort of thing I do, because I don't keep an eye on the day sometimes. I don't always watch the news and get a daily update. It's just too, I don't want it in my environment. I don't want any of that telly broadcast in my environment too much. Especially when you've got to watch something for news and it's got all this other stuff with it. You know, like it's like being skewered with a dirty, bacteria infected, rusty old skewer. You need a tetanus shot after it. You know, it's like, oh, more of this drivel, I'm sick of it. Have I got to do this to find out what the COVID level is, or what the new rules are now today? You know, if you don't watch the news, you're not going to hear whether they're like made these inoculations permanent. And when you've been treated like I have, and you're aware of the behaviour in all of it, you think, well, what a load of hypocrisy. I ain't watching and trusting those idiots. But then you've got to do the right thing and work out, well, what's going on here, and not get caught up in storms and rebellion and protests, and because they're blind leading the blind. And they're all going to be led into the ditch, and the people who they're leading towards to try and get justice are just going to go and break them apart, you know, like child's play, because they don't see the mechanisms and means they have to turn events over and control events and steer events. You hear of all these, and you know of all these all these policemen. No pips, no identification numbers. They're all suited and booted, and they're all on standby around a cul-de-sac. All the loads of them. Even the local police force aren't aware of them, and then when the riot happens, they pour out into the scene. They look official, you see, because they are unofficially official, and they start knocking people and hitting old people, really giving the police a bad reputation, and they withdraw, leave it on the police back, and the public anti-police now, you see, those sorts of games. People that, like recently the Tommy Robertson activist, you know, I don't know anything about the guy, what his heart was, you know, but it was one of these misguided, trying to, you know, I agreed with what he said about the Quran, but I don't know all the other package with it, and who's behind that package, and who's leading him, and, you know, the omissions of the way you would do it and the way it was done. You see that it's not going to come to pass. But you know, maybe that was his intention, just to get people's awareness towards the truth about Islam and how Islam's looked after and sponsored. But when our troops are returning home from conflict, although it might have been on the back of a bad political decision, but they're doing their duty for not only for our protections, but they're just obeying. They don't necessarily know that they're doing wrong until they've gone out there. When they come back, right, you don't just slam them, because they went out there with the right intentions and believed what they were told. If they come back and say, look, we've been lied to, but you don't want to cut them out. You don't have all these Muslims allowed to just line the streets, and they have to walk past them off the ships, and they get all this youth, you know, all these Islamic thugs, all the youth drawing all that out of Islam, and then you get all this soppy side saying, oh, that's not Islam. well, that is in the Quran, that they're doing what they should do, you're not. And that's how they view you, as spineless, traitors to Islam. When they get in power, they're all going to drag you out and punish you. All these Westerners who don't, they say that they're Muslim, but they don't live the Quran, they don't lie, they don't preach Allah, they don't share how to be saved and what the purpose of their life is, because Allah means surrender or else. And then they put their leadership in. You don't get to vote about who they put in, they're already there trying to get in. And these are like Shriners, you know, the Eastern mystical schools of men over men over men over men, and who's over all those men are the same people who are over all the other men. You know, they're little puppet gloves. Muslims, you know, raise the youth up on a lie, and our government supports that. But if you go out into the street and you defend the policeman's rights, the civil rights, and family rights and moral values, and life, pro-life, about abortions, or if you protest about the rights of parents in schools to choose whether they want their children to accept this gender neutral in the education system, this is just how reprobate the nation's become, how it's lost its moral, not it's lost its moral compass, it hasn't got a moral compass. It's just like losing its ability to be moral. And it's just like bankrupt, and it's raising children and taking control of what the parents should be doing. And if they don't see the parents doing it, because the parents rebel against the government, which is the idea, and that justifies their overtaking the need to look after their children. They're not, these are devils, they're a bit more clever than you and I, because they have the knowledge how to play these things, the big game, because of the devil, you see. And they've seen a bit more of it than you have, so they learn how to manipulate. So I'm just wondering, was this anomaly in my ward a manipulation? And just considering the hypocrisy of these equal rights, and then how the British Army are treated, how the lawful officers are treated, how the lawful officers, the officers in the lawful officers behave because of the consequence of the same machination and political, you know, Punch and Judy show. And how Islam is held up and supported. You're not allowed to speak against it, but it's a criminal terrorist organisation, so why, and no one thinks that's wrong. And all the public in ignorance who've never read the Quran attack people. Well, they're just nice people. I know some Muslim, I know some Jesuits, they're lovely people. I know some Masons, you know, they wouldn't harm a goose. Have they told you what they do? No, they're not allowed to. They're sworn an oath. It's a secret, not even their wives know. So how do you know what they're doing then? And how do they know who they're with in there? It's just absolutely bananas. Bananas in pyjamas, going up the stairs, planting tares. Oh, right, so there was that. Another thing, so there's a date confusion now. It's flagging up. Is that a mistake, or is that a deliberate thing for me to repeat? So that will discredit my ability to recount information, so they can say you're an unreliable witness. Hence why I journalise it. So if you are watching these, it's a journal of my life experience. I'm not doing this for fame or popularity, but I'm also a born again Christian, and I'm doing this in an evangelical sense to reach out to people with the invitation of what I've experienced in my life, for people to either choose that for themselves and accept it. But I'm also journalising what I'm up against and sharing what you're all up against, but you don't see it because you're not in the minority. You don't know who your enemy is. And there's only one person who hasn't lost sight of that enemy, and that's the born again Christian. They're in the crack of the minority of minorities, you know, and they're getting stamped with, well, there's people with the intention to stamp all these people like grapes into the press and get rid of them out of society because they challenge the evil and the lies. So anyone wakes up to any truth, they put up these fake sites, it draws it all the attention, and they're going, right, write their names down, where they live, because they're going to be a threat to our plans. And keep an eye on them, and if they step out of line, then they're going to get the target treatment. You know, anyone else is on another blacklist. You're public enemy number 1, I'm on that list. They want me dead, I know it. You know, but I can't run away. And I can't protect my family because we're powerless. And I can't protect myself from my family getting hand him over, you know, or we're going to do it to you. You know, what are people like that supposed to do? Betray you? So it keeps the heat off their own loved ones. And I can't do that myself. Because even if I go away, they're still in danger, because the threat's over everybody, you see. So it's down to everybody to help wake up, because they're guilty for not helping themselves. I'm just trying to pull people up who're sitting on the grass doing nothing. Get up, there's danger coming, and I can't hang around. I can't get into a fight and get stopped from, because I know that I'm trying to I can get myself out of the danger and not inform anybody. And just go, see ya. I could run through, chuck a letter behind me. See you later. What's that guy running? He left a letter. Everyone's fighting for it. Get out of the way. What's he on about? Get out of the way, loser. No one else sees it, you see. So you've got to hang around putting yourself out. Get up, get up. No, he's not interested. Leave him. He's drowning. He don't want any help. Well, stay there then, you idiot. And you know, you can't even be rude. You just want to get everyone to get up and realise, you know, and go and, if you want, go and have a look what's coming down the road. Send a runner and get moving, and tell the runner what direction you're going, and send a few runners in case one don't come back. And then you'll know if they don't come back, it's true, and if they do come back, they confirm it, and you'll be getting your skates on a bit further. So I wanted to include that concern. Another concern is, now people are blind for this, and it's never been given me a platform or opportunity to share my insights to my dad, and it's easy for them to call upon a bad witness if they want to frame me in a bad light and call round my family and get some dirt, you know, get some of those, pick the moments they want to frame. Oh, Andrew's angry. Well, they might know why I have a right to get angry. You know, it's what I do with that anger. If I overstep the mark, I say I'm guilty and I apologise. If I don't, I'm angry for a reason. I'm in my right to be angry, because I'm being dismissed. I'm being treated as a liar. I'm being treated as a problem, and I'm just trying to resolve the problem in my way. So, my dad, over the last, as he's been getting old, this was in the last 6 years, he's been getting these blotches on his arms, and he covers them over. He don't want me to see them because he knows I'll get concerned and go, Dad, why don't you go and see a doctor? He don't want to, you see, and I can't force him. I can only really wait around until he desperately needs a doctor, and I'm not going to not ring for an ambulance or a GP or something. But I've done all those things when you need one, and you're brushed off. I had it all with my mum, you see, and so you're left, and they're all guilty of crimes, and they're carrying on in their practice and lies. You're left there in a mess, and you've got to rely on them again, and they're not providing you the needs in the first place. So the hypocrisy of it, and they're all dumped in the same problem, so no one wants to deal with it, and then you got to go back then and say, look, I want to avoid all this, I just want to get on with it, and you're like, it's him, he's going to ruin us, and then you get, like, you just don't know where it's coming from. And plus, it's not only in that life, it's for other things you might have, you know, this housing association. There's so many things that go after you, so you don't know what avenues and what's coming from where and why. But what you do know is that it's deliberate man-made interruptions, because there's the evidence. It's not always just a mistake, and because they will use that as a mistake. Oh, that's just a mistake. Oh, well, there's been 75 mistakes just with the mistake, and you're aware that you keep having these mistakes because I keep telling you, you keep having these mistakes and just brushing them off as, oh, that's a mistake. They're barefaced liars. They tell you black's white, and they say that to their colleagues because they're in a scam. They're in a pact. They're in a covenant of some sorts. And how is we, the public, the lawful authorities, without intelligence and listening and watching it all unfold and then gathering evidence, without that, how does a person ever prove it and bring it to the justice so they can go, yeah, we've got a case here, we've got evidence, we can get that through the courts. Right, that's the problem. That's where the cover-up is, through these dirty lies, and these people are planted in positions. And there's loads. You don't know how many few they got in one area, how they might have a full house almost. And it's only the people in the public that are, and perhaps a scattering of people who are unaware, and it can be done around them all, you know, over their shoulder and through their armpit, and they don't even see it. They turn away, hit someone, and they turn back. There's, hiya, colleague. Nothing going on here to see, and the person's bleeding. Oh, what's happening? And they go and deal with it. That guy hit me in the eye. Well, it says here on your record you've got a habit of hitting yourself, and that, you know, I know that colleague. He wouldn't be that. He's a professional like myself. I better get that looked at. Delusional, police, paranoid, schizophrenia. Pass that on. You know, people are dirty. So I don't know, oh, that's an anomaly. So my dad had these liver spots, and I said, Dad, you know, he says, nothing to worry about, all old people get them. So like little blotches of blood under the skin that dry. And I didn't know, I'm not a medical expert, and I didn't really look it up. I thought, oh, okay, I just accepted the answer. Now, when I visited Friday, the 13th, I think it's the 13th. Let me check my calendar. See, my computer has changed dates and calendars before, like the time changes. And even on the websites it looks like it's the right time, but when you check it with other things it's wrong. Right, so my calendar here says Friday was the 13th. So that's 2 days ago, so I've been doing all those videos and this all that time while I'm having my sleep interrupted. So I visited my dad on the Thursday, and it was a Wednesday previous, which was the 4th. Well, I better check that. It might have been 28. No, it was the 4th. Must have been. Yeah, it was the 4th. No, it's the 4th I was phoned, and then I visited. I'll have to look. You see, I either get mixed up with dates myself, but I've only been in twice. It was the 4th of November that it was the first time I heard back, and at that time I was still under the impression I couldn't see my dad. So I get confused because sometimes people tell you it's this day and it's not that day, and it trips you up and you repeat it, you see, and then it throws you where you are because you're not sure. So I get in a muddle. So phoned on the 4th. It might have been a Friday I went last week, so it might have been a week, so I might have been right. It was the 6th I went, but I'm going to have to check that and make sure I can substantiate for myself, not by relying on what other people, the actual day I did go. Because looking at this, what they'd written on the wall that only my dad would see because it was his bedside, and it says today's date is Wednesday 16th of November, and I thought and I was looking for the date because I didn't know it, or I'd forgotten what I knew. I knew where I was coming to the hospital in the Friday coming, so I mark it down, Friday 2 o'clock, next Friday 2 o'clock. And then you just put it on the back burner until it's time to cook. And off I went Friday, which was the 13th, so there's that anomaly. And then I noticed all these bruises around his neck. Well, I didn't notice bruises, I noticed like these patches, like they're like giraffe patches of like blood under the skin. Right, and he had 2 or 3 of them on his neck, and then he was all over it. He had them on his arms. Oh, he's always had them on his arms, but it didn't look as bad as it had done. Now, I'm not a medical expert, so I haven't got no, that could be something to do with some blood or the blood vessels, that could be in what, that I know that aspartame does that, saccharin and those sweeteners can have an effect of weakening your blood vessels. But he may have had an aneurysm or something, I don't know, I'm not a medical expert, but he's got all these like blotches, which my dad said were liver spots. That might be what they call them, but I don't know the medical I don't know what it's a symptom of, and where the problem stems from, and what's breaking down or causing it. And I said, "Oh, what are those patches on those marks on my dad's neck?" They said they're bruises. I said, "Oh, I didn't know they were." Well, what's bruised him then? I don't get any information, any feedback. Well, that's like the liver spots on his arm. How do I don't know? While he's been going out, he's been bruised by somebody. My dad could be a dissociated victim, that he could be triggered down into a reoccurring traumatic experience, which has been done on purpose, so that somebody's got that trigger so they can terrify him, or trigger a terrifying event which will lock him down and he'll black out. Because that's what can happen under extreme trauma. You can't take it, you just like disintegrate, and that will shatter your life chances in a blink, like it's like a light bulb being burst. That's what they do to children at the youngest age that they can, and then they're dependent on those masters who are raised up in that mould, you see, and then they raise the general public in the same amongst it, you see. So you've got a white hat and a black hat, and some of the black hats are just independent black hats, and some are organised and on the end of something, an organisation. This is where you've got to know what the components are, and the moving of time, and the ups and downs of daily life, the faults of people, and then the devices and all the other potential methods, and I don't know everything. I'm just like reading what I've seen and experienced. So there's the dates, and I've experienced being tripped up with dates. Like I say, my shifts used to be changed, and then they used to say, "Look, he's not coming in on this shift." But one day, the manager, who was a joint partner of the partner who was trying to get rid of me, who liked me, loved me, who looked after me, understood me, and that was my boss. The other one didn't like it, went through the supervisor, changes, cause a problem, and then whisper things to the other staff about me. You see, and it causes that resentment, and you're isolated in the thing, and you think, "Oh, I don't like working here anymore." Well, I didn't buy that. I wasn't there for them. I was there to do what, to reach these people, make a difference in their lives. And I could see that among the main dominance of staff, being led by this crook, no better word for it, a crooked component in that care system, was having an effect on all the staff, and they were all dominated by her. She was like the alpha woman, like a dykey woman, but she wasn't a lesbian, but she was like a bully woman who thought she was an alpha male. And I wouldn't stand it, I wouldn't take it, I wouldn't take her patronising, I wouldn't take her games, I wouldn't take her injustices and bad decisions, but I did. She was my boss. So they had to get one over me on dirtily, so I used to between them change my shift. And one day my boss was there, the boss who employed me, the head carer, who wasn't aware of what's going on here. But she had an idea, I think, but she'd never, no evidence. And she said, "Oh, can I give you an interview? Just a personal, see how you're doing, blah, blah, blah." what are you doing Tuesday? Let's have a look at your shift rota. Right, she goes and she writes down all my shifts, copies them carefully, checks it again carefully. Yeah, right, you got your shifts written down? Yeah. Have you checked them? Yeah. Right, this time here, mark that in your diary. You know, you're on duty, I'm in the office, I'm be popping in and I've got lots to do, and I'll put you in here at this time, write it in the books so the staff are aware, blah 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 blah, so know that you're absent for that period, you know, make arrangements, yeah, chick, text, see you later, thanks, bye. And then my shifts are changed, you see, a few days later, and then I'm reported, and then you go, hang on a minute, and she, you know, reported to the dark guy. He starts then he's got his excuse to like rebuke me, but then his wife gets a wind of it. What's going on here? It causes a rip, I think, but we don't see that, but I know it's what's going on. You see, I'm the only one, and those guilty know what it's going on. The rest of the staff don't, right? So eventually it was like, you have to go. You're going. And I said, well, I ain't going, you ain't got any. He goes, you try me, I've got all these barristers, lawyers, you ain't going to win. He said, I've had it all before, get out. I said, no, I'm going to work my notice. Yeah, I don't want you here. I said, I don't want to be here, see you then. And I just said goodbye to a few people. And they were heartbroken because of these crooks running these care homes. Because that's the people they need to run them, you see. But I ain't taking the rubbish of the crappy hypocrisy rules, and it bound the talent in there trying to reach these people, and they're just choked down with all these idiots, you know, these jelly moulds, these gods who've been made up to think they're God's image. That's the education system, and it chokes their own talent, pulls it up to it, you know, pulls its socks up through its guts and into its mouth, right up its roof of its head, through the soles of its feet, lifts it right up, stiffens its neck. It thinks it can't do no wrong. It's got that professional sharpness, and then you've got people with a heart who their professional sharpness is you know, lawful, it's just, and they treat everyone the same, and they just sort of like brush shoulders with that. If I meet it, I like to challenge it. A lot of people don't like the conflict, and they just like politely, like ambassadors for it. And you know, I can't leave somebody suffering and, you know, having water chucked on them to wake them up in the morning. Or that's the boss, you know. That's one guy doing the complete opposite to his partner. And they're both telling the staff what to do, and you end up going like a schizo. What is going on here? You know, one minute I'm told to report to your wife, and then the next minute you're asking me for a report, and you're never here. And when I do ring you don't listen. And then they're all in the staff room. If you've got a problem, you need to call us. And then you call them. Oh, hang on, I'm going on a bit late at Wimbledon. You know, take my kids to Wimbledon. Oh, I'll take my kids out to this, and oh, we're going. You know, it's just to gratify their lifestyle. And where I used to work, I heard from my cousin who works there recently that their children are running it now. And when I worked there, they were schools. I don't know what happened and why that the children are running it or managing it, and if their father's behind it, well, watch out, you know. I say that to the staff and the residents at that place, Park Homes. You know, the heart was in the wife side of the business, and that reflected in the people she employed. But the bloke getting involved was just a male chauvinist pig who's into Roman Catholic, probably into Freemasonry. He's that sort of, likes to rub shoulders and think he's like, oh, people want to bow down to him because he's had a poor humble background. Now he's made it. Everyone else is, you know, a doormat. He really was the most arrogant, haughty, sharp master you could work for. But I quite liked him, and he wasn't 100% bad. He had a good heart, And I think he started with that good heart, but the regulation and the pressures of running a home for business, he got kind of drunk by the perks and temptations, and he grew a bit that way. But I could still see through that and see the man inside, which would have been stunted from developing, which is a shame. But I think what they started off was like to try and bail out the people out of the failing place that they'd worked, and put it into their own, remedy provider, and they were concerned about people's well-being and independence. But there's so many things conflicting with that. So I wanted to include those mistakes, and I think that's it. The bruises on my dad. So I'm wondering, is somebody going to be whispering, oh, he's been abusing his father? Then they go speaking to the relatives who hear second-hand, third-hand gossip, and the only one who comes round is a cousin who never takes any notice, not really considerate, doesn't really understand. He's like my dad, socially inept, and he's insensitive, and he takes it personally, and then will pull back a bad report, and people get sick of hearing, the ups and downs of it. And I've had to tell him to stay away, because you're repeating the same thing and he's not getting it, and then he takes it personally when you pull him straight on it, and then it gets a bit ugly, and you just got to go, look, stay away then. And then people he speaks to and gets some frustration off his chest, I think he only gives them half the story, and he holds back why, and then he forgets all about it, you see, and then it's repeat, and then you think, well, we've been here before, haven't we? And so, you wonder what the taking advantage of my family and their vulnerabilities, and they're making martyrs of misinformation, things that are said in the moment, or half truths, and not getting the full story, and then using it to justify their concerns. We're concerned about Andrew and his relationship with his father. We've spoken to the family members, and they've reinforced our opinions that he's a danger. Did they ask me though? No. Was anything of the things I reported constantly to every single person down the line reported? No. Will they admit that? No. Are they interested in that? Perhaps, but I think no. It's a staged, managed theatre among the public, ignorance and care. That's simply why I'm recording this and sharing that. You make up your own mind from your own experiences, and then compare your experiences with other people's experiences to see if you meet people like yourself as well as people like myself, and maybe you'll consider, well, perhaps it's one for one and it's that for another, and then then the blinkers may come down, because they're not going to treat everyone like that, because everyone's going to complain. No, they have to process people under the radar slowly and get rid of them, slowly, killing me softly, killing me with electronic weapons. The medical profession deny it, and then you've got the medical profession standing up to challenge the lies that the medical profession have got their media approval that it's true science. No, there's no dangers to microwaves. And then you read history, and they've been aware of all the dangers of microwaves since radar. Oh, but not today. No, they were wrong then. They didn't really have those symptoms, they were something else. And the military didn't really use these things and practice on them, and they haven't really tested them on the public, rolled them out into the service, crowd control, security, military covert operations, inner nation security, national security, military intelligence security in the nation, terrorist cells. They might torture people to weaken them, if they think a terrorist is a cell and they can't prove it's a cell because they're gathering evidence, and they want to slow their progress, they might radiate them to make them confused and interfere and trip them up. There's so many things you can craft with this toolkit, and the people and organisation of any any military intelligence organisation modelled on a legal standard, or modelled the same methods modelled in a legal standard, but the victim doesn't see who's who. So you sound cranky trying to explain and share what you're going through, and when you've got an illness, a disability, and you've never had any help, you've never had any advocacy, you don't get a social worker, you don't get someone to speak and fight your corner, because they don't want to know you from the start, so that you don't even get to the diagnosis stage. And if you do, they give you a false one straight away. Don't bother me, you'll get this, go away, hi, take care. It's like that, and you go, what? Then you get your doctor ringing, what's this about your medication? What medication? Oh, that so-and-so. I told you about that so-and-so, doctor. I got there, it was a waste of time, and I left. Has he written up that he's taken all that money I had to spend? Is the money gone? Or did they send the refund back to you? Have you reported that, doctor? Because he's spent the money and not given me any treatment, and the treatment I was sent to give I didn't receive. It was a lie. And then they're acting as though I agreed to their service. I didn't. It was a waste of time, and when I got there it was just like, oh well, I'll go home. But I did speak to them, and then they just like wrote me a diagnosis and wrote a full report and put me on medication. I didn't agree to that. And then they stamped out, my doctor's querying about it. I go, what are you on about? I didn't know. Don't want that medication, it gives you liver cancer. You need blood tests every week. And it's not like I'm dying. And that was for ADHD. And I said to the doctor, don't give me anything to do with ADHD. Oh no, of course I won't. And then I get that. And then I told her, look, you've done that to me. I told you specifically, send me to an ADHD specialist, an adult one. I've been round that block, it's a dead end. It's not quite, it's hiding something, I discovered, where all these things come from, and it comes from the trauma in the womb, and they are natural symptoms from the consequences generationally, but they also can be manufactured, like inoculations. You've got all this debate, is all this autism through the toxins and the little toxins that help the medicine go round the body and be more effective? What, like mercury, a nerve toxin, a brain toxin, and a lot of these things are carcinogenic. They could irritate and cause cancer. And then you've got these toxins in the blood that they got to keep an eye on, so you don't die too quickly. So, and then you say, did you report that false report? No. And it makes you wonder, well, are you in on it then? So you set me up to look like a donut, then get another thing on my record that's untrue. It's just going to pile on it's just like an insult. And they go, what do you want me to do about it? Repent. Realise you're wicked, no matter how righteous you're think you are. Accept the Lord, what He's dispensed, forgiveness of sins. He's died for everybody's sins, for them, against them, and all throughout history and time of every single creation of the every human person, every man and woman, mankind. Past, present, future, is paid for the sins, that you may know love, because you didn't know that it wasn't your fault. You were put in an environment to sin. That's why He's merciful. So all the time you're in ignorance, He's a bit gracious. But when there's a time you start to learn right and wrong, there's no excuse for you not to find Him and realise and admit because you know you're wrong, you know you've done wrong, and now you've offended God. And if you don't accept his son, you're offending him even more, because he's appeased what you owe God for your hurting someone. Because when you offend somebody, you offend God ultimately. So God goes, right, you've done wrong there, so I'm just, I've got to do wrong back to you. So Christ, his word, his son, to help those people not just carry on sinning, not have any hope of any change, knew that he had to go in amongst us all. Like somebody locked down in a dream, somebody's got to come into the dream to help them get out of that, those stories, get them out and escape their little world they're trapped in, or someone in a coma. You could write a film about it. Someone's in a coma and they're needed for a crisis. They're the only person with the code to open the safe. How can we get to this? And they're trying to read his thoughts, so the brain activity's low. They go, right, we've got the technology to send somebody into his imagination, and they wire someone up in the suit and their goggles, and they send somebody in there, connect them to their alpha wave patterns and their DNA sequence, and in they go into the mind. Hey, you in there? You're in a coma. Oh, right. We need the combination. This is what's going on in the world. We want you to get better and wake up. We're doing all this care around you. Right, give us the code. Are you with us? Yeah. And he gives the code and they get out of the dream. That kind of thing. The Lord had to come into the world, his creation, and just selflessly suffer it all and lay down his life for people. Just give it up. Here you are. Because he couldn't be taken. The world couldn't knock him over. The world couldn't harm him at all. Couldn't get near him. So he offered himself through the law justice system, because he was arrested legally. The police held, the Jews held an illegal arrest. So it's all a murder investigation today. But it's one that he dealt with himself. He solved it and forgiven it. So if those people at that time had repented, he would have forgiven them. Barring Judas Iscariot, because he had a devil, but the people had an opportunity to repent. He said, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they do. So he's mercifully outstretched for those people who tried him illegally, the ones who were severely guilty and unforgivable, who had denied his divine authority and they would never repent. He struck down dead, out of the way. But these people got a chance of perhaps repenting and coming up later with an apology, acceptance that they're sinful and they've always been sinful, and they've crucified their Messiah. But he's forgiven them, because that's what he came for, to forgive them their sins that he knew that they would commit. So he knew that he was going to go through everything he went through. And the Romans knew his hereditary because of the census. The Jews knew his lineage, that he was of the tribe of Jesse. He was the house of David. Joseph was the house of David. Mary was from the family of the line of Jesse. So they were related to King David. They were, and they were the tribe of Judah. So they're like the royal, in the Jewish sense. In the Christian sense, we're all the royal priesthood. We're all of that one family. We're all in that one heart. We're all wrapped up into that line, that branch, and that branch is all in the tree. So that tree and the branch are all one royal priesthood together. The past and the saints today. So his humble parents, who lived in the most troubled place in Jerusalem, really rough, really the docks, if you like, down in the docks. And they were self-sufficient. They would do carpentry. Joseph would be a carpenter to make a living, and he had to go and sell all his wares amongst an occupying army, policed by an old occupying enemy, in the pocket of the occupying army,
and it's their native land and it's their native rights that have been swept out of the way, and they've put their own police box over the seat of power in that country. Jesus was the heir to the throne of the king, if that would have been there to meet him, but it wasn't. It was completely wicked, full of wolves and sheep's clothing among his sheep. So he knew who his sheep were and who the wolves were. We didn't, unless somebody asked him and he said, oh, it's the one who dips in the sop with me. He didn't say, oh, it's him over there, Judas, but he didn't hide it back. Oh, it's Judas, don't tell him. No, he told Judas directly in the open, but whether the others grasped it or not. So he's quite considerate, the Lord, you know, the most considerate person you could, likely to me, because he's God, because he's 100% God, 100% man, and he gave up his power and took it up again. What he offered was the sinful man. He became sin, although he wasn't a sinner. There was no sin in his flesh because he was holy, so his body was holy. Although it had a sinful, but on Mary's side it had a sinful code. But when he was in it, it was holy. So there was no sin in the man, and there was no sin in the heart of his deity, because he was sent from God. He's a member of the Godhead, and he's one with the Godhead. There's one God, one Lord, one Saviour. And so he gave up his life, and he was the lamb because he was innocent. So he was without sin, but he was punished for all the sins and became a curse for us while we were sinners in that curse. He went into the ground, he dealt with sin, and he come up victorious, and he dealt with death, because death is the consequence of sin, the lack of truth, the lack of knowledge to sustain life forever. And only Christ is forever, only God is forever, and only the Jews knew that. And now only the born again Christians, whether they're Jews or Gentiles, know that, and know that the righteous of the Old Testament knew that. They didn't understand the mysteries of what we've progressively had been given and afforded in hindsight by all of those along the line, because of the author and finisher, the end and the beginning, at which there's no beginning and end, because he's eternal. And so that eternal life's now, it's today, and it's simply a free gift. And you simply need to realise you're a sinner, and you need to go and accept that gift through faith and belief. If you believe in it's already done, you're accepting it. If you believe you're a sinner and you believe in Jesus and what he's done on the cross, the death, burial and resurrection, the finished work, it's finished, and he's resting in heaven, you believe that, that's when he will appropriate your faith, and your faith will be appropriated by his finished action already, which is eternal. Then you will receive his eternal gift inside you, which is his life, which is his holiness and pureness. And that would be imputed, that would be stuffed in your belly and into your heart amongst your sinful, corrupt DNA. But you'll be predominantly, if you're obedient to it, the heart and spirit and drive and the following what you learn and all the instructions in the word, because the words, you can't have a relationship with God without his word, because you can get destroyed, you could be destroyed and swept away with all these gnosis and these are the real scriptures, this is what they left out of the state-driven Bible, and the King James, boo, it's all Illuminati, it's the Jesuits. No, it's lawful. Those people hate it and get you to hate it, because it cuffs them, it binds them. And that was done by a king in the law, and that was done by faithful people who put themselves in a compromise to
try and solve the world's problems, and at the time of when everyone knew who the enemy was, and how that divided the country, and what life's like when one's in power and what life's like when the other's in power, and how they never ever forget. And it's a constant, what they call it, between two families, a constant feud between these two ideas. And there's a lot of righteous in a false idea in one. It's not perfect, but it's more grounded in the truth, and it believes more of the Bible than the other one, but it's still slightly in error, well, quite significantly in error, but it's opposed to the other because it's against the principles of the one, which that the one in error, in the least evil, holds to. So the other one hates it, so there's this feud. That's the IRA business, that's the Orangeman business. It's all played out in that game, but none of it is Christianity, you see. It's just to believe in Jesus. If you all your heart know you're a sinner, that you're guilty, and he's paid for your sins and forgiven you. If you believe you've received this forgiveness, and you'll rejoice and be filled with that forgiveness. And that eternal life within you today is not something you're going to hope for in the future to come, that you haven't received at the moment. So you're just going along through your life and thinking, well, is this true? Isn't this true? Am I going to go to heaven? No, you go to heaven the minute you believe, because you're put there. It's put in you. So when you go to heaven, you're already there, because it's the same life. It's a spiritual life. It's not the physical is a way of understanding that first. And then it's flesh and blood, but it's in the spiritual flesh and blood rather than a disconnect from. So it's not the same, but it's modelled on that. It's like the Old Testament is the first model, and that's just a teaching instrument for the second model, which is the New Testament, which is the spiritual, eternal inside of you. Whereas the Old Testament was just to prepare you for that spiritual internal inside of you, that you would be covered by, completely looked after, encompassed by the hand of the Lord around you, an anointing or a sanctification, and you've got the Spirit of God in the grace of God around you, and it align your heart up to be in agreement with that, so you'll be like whole, like a born again Christian would be. But if you remove that grace, the vessel remains sinful without that eternal light in them, so they'd have to appropriate their faith to get that covering and go through the ordinances to appropriate that promise of the covenant, the covering and the promise of Christ to come. So that model was put away back in the box. It's of the right shopkeeper, it's legitimate, but it's no longer in use because of the New Testament and covenant, which puts all that what it was aiming for into the believer, which is what the prophets used to teach. It's what Abraham believed, it's what Moses believed. They all knew and were looking for the day and wondering about it. They didn't all have the same knowledge because it was progressive. So up until the time of Malachi, and it went all quiet, and then John the Baptist was another prophet of that generation and era, was fulfilling prophecy of introducing the New Testament, to recognise the New Testament, to announce him, and to prepare the way that he'd instructed him to do for himself and for God's Son. And so he goes, behold the Lamb of God, because he knew what he was looking for, knew what he was doing, because God was leading him by faith. And when he'd done it and then the Lamb turns up, he knows he was doing the right thing, because he was faithful to his beliefs and what his traditions and his God. And so he faithfully prepared the way, crying in the wilderness, as Isaiah prophesied about Elijah. So John was in an office of Elijah, and he prepared the way, but he wasn't Elijah, and he isn't the Elijah that the Jews leave a seat out for, that they promised to come back, because it's a different half of the prophecy. That's the first half, and there's Elijah in the second half. But John is like an Elijah in a likeness, but he was his own person. John wore camel's hair and ate honey and ate locusts and honey, wild honey, covered in a furry garb of goat skin or something, crying in the wilderness, bypassing the religious systems, preparing Israel for the prophecy and the signs, to fulfilling and tick off all the signs of the Messiah and the fulfilling the prophecy. Tick, 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 tick. Oh, he ain't done those, it can't be the Messiah. Well, he's done all of that. He's done 50% of them, or 80% of them, and the other half of them are to be filled at the end. And there's like the page is folded in half, and they only see the one page. They hadn't been opened up yet, so they see the two halves to the same page, and what's on the first page agrees with that what's on the other half of the page, but it is one page. And so that was fulfilled, and that's the invitation. It's a free gift, and it's simply by faith alone, believing in Jesus and then him reaching out, giving you what he's done, and then bringing you unto himself in heaven while you're walking around on the earth. And that's your relationship, and that's the invitation. And then you live for him and not for your old way, because you've got a new way to live. You're a new creature, a new man, a new person. Not a learned behaviour, there's no substance to it. No, he's put it into you from the start, and you'll build from there through faith every day, like you did to receive it. So you apply your faith to feed it and nourish it and look after yourself, because the Lord's given you the word to feed yourself and nurture yourself. And then you do other. He's with you spiritually to nurture you, so you need the two hand in hand. And if you've got the wrong version and standard, it's going to affect you're going to be. It's like buying, going to buy some salt for your dinner, and then there's some other chemical mixed with it, in a concentrate, and it might be 50-50, or it might be just a little spike, a little bit, and you're chucking it on your dinner. You're not really. That's a bit. You don't quite recognise it because of the saltiness, but you're poisoning yourself because you've got the wrong standard. You've not checked the salt out to see if it's kosher. It's like it's not a manufactured salt. It's a natural sea salt. It's not a processed salt. A chemical processed salt. It's a naturally processed salt by evaporation. And then extracting the salt from where it's left, from the crystallization of the solution in the water. You just remove the water from it and it crystallizes. Break it down, sea salt. But you get these other salts, and it's not the salt you need. So it's the same with the Bible. You need the right Bible, because you go astray. And then you'll believe other people's opinions of what is right and what is wrong, what's Greek and what's Latin, and what you need to do. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to trust people. You need to trust God and trust his word. And you could discover that without anyone ever telling you anything. You could come to that yourself if God help you. And that's what we're doing, the same thing. It's just to help you come to the truth and invite you to check it out to see if it is true. So I'm going to round this off. So I've mentioned that. So Frimley Park Hospital, my concerns, the date, anomalies, the date was Wednesday, done that. Fiery darts of Satan, the omission of truth and right, the mob spirit, how people behave in that one spirit, I did cover that, I think. Bruises on my dad's neck, yep. We're not there when I last saw him, they weren't. So I'm wondering if there's anything being suggested. I don't think so, but you never know. Yeah, they weren't, and the ambulance driver would have noticed those if they're there. Say, but who's the ambulance driver? Because when the ambulance driver come round, very nice, very professional, nothing out of order. It's just she's wearing an identical model of the phone that my dad's got. So how do I know that that wasn't just a little slight dig? Oh, we know your father. We know what's going on. Just want to let you know amongst my colleagues, because I can't openly say I'm in the satanic coven and we're working a gig, or we're working for a group of assassins of the secret order of the Catholic Church, or some other association from that order. It's got another association to raise it up to do it and give them the privilege and raise them up and brainwash them to do that sort of activity under the noses of the apparatus for their covenant, for their own gratification, whatever they get out of it, whatever their compromise is, or whatever they get out of it. Or it could have just been something put into her heart, and she had one of those old models and thought, oh, I'll be different, and I'll wear the old chunky pay as you go, and I'll risk ovary cancer, I'll risk having it on my thing all day. But it wasn't modern technology, the size and chunkiness of it, and I know what the modern gear is, and it's usually up here, or it's something very slim. But it depends on if you're a volunteer or what ambulance station you are, and I don't know. It was just odd that was there, that identical model of what my dad's phone. And this is how these people torment you. This is how the devil torments you. And this is why people get schizophrenia, because no one's listening, and then you're locked in the nut house among a load of ignorance, and potentially the people who know what they're doing, putting voices in your head. And I've heard reports of that confirmed from people who worked in mental hospitals, that there are in fact those activities going on, testing on mental health people with voices, or giving them voices to see if they can do that to an enemy, to make the enemy think that they're schizophrenic. Then they can section them and have power of them and draw them into private, where the public goes, oh, nutter, they've been, they need to be locked up. But what they don't realise, it's one of their sons or daughters who's been targeted by these stealth covert weapons, driving absolutely mad and paranoid, dyed their hair, started tattooing themselves, getting guns, going on, I'm going to go nuts, I'm going to tear down the system, I'm going to go wild out in the street because they're driving me mad. They are winding me up, cooking me up to press the button and let me go. This is what all these nutters are. And then the media goes, there's this man dangerous on the loose, complete freaky nutter, should be locked from society. No, but what people don't realise, that might be true, but it's what are they looking at, the cause and the effect and the symptoms, and what are causing those symptoms. And when you always look back at it, they've always known that he's having trouble, but they never step in and help and get him care that he needs, or they need, she needs, he needs. No, they wait till it blows up and they go wild on a gun spree, and then it comes to light that no one was doing anything. They go, oh, we've got to learn from that mistake. No, that's just sit back and wait, because someone's generating it. The people who generate it got the authority to hold the people back who could deal with it. People need to wake up, see what the game is, before they get rid of me, because they don't want me to share this online. And that's why I'm getting a hammering, and that hammering's going to make me ill and kill me eventually. And people go, oh, what, people go, oh well. And they go, oh, perhaps he was telling the truth, perhaps there's something in it, or it would just be like dismissed quickly because people don't want to be ruffled, they don't want to be disturbed. But I'm doing it for people who do want to be warned, and they're looking for hope. They're looking for the hope now, right this minute, and they haven't got anyone to turn to. So I'm just providing like a sign in the wall. If you need help, is all my life experience. Bye. Hope that helps somebody. Off you go. And then you're never heard of again, and no one's, I've got no glorious, famous legacy to be remembered by. There ain't going to be anyone at my funeral. There ain't going to be a funeral. Not for myself. I'm hoping I'll be raptured out of here. And if I die, they'll just probably cremate me and won't even go through the books. They probably send me down to the processing factory and I'll be in one of the supermarkets in a packet of mints. I don't know. So I'm going to end it off there, because that is completed. So those things I just wonder and question, because I don't know, because I see in the dark like everyone else, but I just have the knowledge and the sensitivity and the experience of being through it full. I'm not irrational, I'm not delusional, I'm quite in my right mind. And I have to deal with these liars, and I want to make people who do care aware of these liars. That's why I've put this on a playlist, so anyone that hears of my case, whether that's in the hospital and they want to view it privately, but I know things will be monitored, so keep your opinions to yourself if you're worried about backlash. Don't talk about it, because people start trying to manage the spread of things. And there'll be wolves around waiting. So if anyone goes, oh, that's true, and I'm going to take action, they go, right, cover that base, see what you can do and stem that, put that person off, shut them up, rattle them, make them aware that we're around and that we mean business, and they'll be terrified. Just send them some kid round to say we're going to burn your house down. That will do it, or something like that. Well, we know where you live, we know where your children are. They just start talking about you. Oh, that. Do you hear about that family? What was their names? They give your names. Yeah, they didn't do what they told. They went up against that. Who were they? Went up against that thing, and then they just, set light to them, kidnapped their children, and eventually they done what they told. Oh, what were their names? And you hear something like that. But it's not at you. But it's about you, for you to hear. But it's like that so that no one can prove that. And if anyone says, oh, they're the ones who did the murdering me, and you go, we were just talking about a story. These people are flipping crazy. You're out of order, mate. And that's how they look you in the eye. Black is white, white is black. Because they know what they're doing. And it's either them or you. So what hold is on them, you've got to consider. And they've compromised themselves. And they get others to compromise. That's the only way they can touch you, is get other people compromised to lie. So they don't do the dirty work, they get other people to do the dirty work. You get other people to do the dirty work, because they're all in the same, what they say, rubbish is passed down the hierarchy. Complaints go up, problems come down. Complaints go up. Nothing comes back about the problems, but the problems come down again, because there's the disconnect to keep you in your boots, in your rank and file. A lot of good principles in that, but that can be either way, like that. On the scales, you can have that or you can have that. But you can still have the hierarchy, but it's on for the right reasons. It's not, oh, shut your mouth, do as you're told. You're not really fully equipped to function as a soldier. You've got to dependent on someone knowing what they're doing all the time, which is something everybody needs who's not had any experience. But it's the Word of God's a just measure, so once you've received a just measure, you can work out through study and observation and knowledge and learning and measuring and testing. You can evaluate eventually, because you've got the equipment to do it. Hey, he's selling, his scales are true, so I'm getting my money's worth from that salesman, that stallholder. What about this one here? Oh no, I wanted a pound of sugar. and I get it over there, and I can get that in this size bag, but when you give it to me, it seems a bit light. You sure your scales are alright? Yeah, let me check you with my standard. And you check his scales against a pound. You've got a pound that you know is a pound, because you're not going to rip yourself off, are you? So you put your pound on there and you get his pound. You go, hang on mate, this is a bit light. You're a rogue. And he will start sweating and runs off, or starts attacking you. I'll get all my mates on you if you don't shut up. And that's how you convict people. That's how you know yourself whether someone's just or unjust. You need to just measure. You need it inside you, and you need to know which one's the faithful just measure, to test that just measure inside you, so you can justly measure. And it's beautifully simple that an idiot like me can grasp that eternal principle, because it's a gift. So I'm going to close there. I wish people a blessed day, because it's 7 o'clock now. I don't know where I am, what I'm doing, so I'm just going to crack on with that till I'm tired and hungry. I'm hungry. I had last night's dinner because I was so tired I fell asleep. As soon as I fell asleep I get the zapping, then I got to get up again, and I wake up, then I start where I left off before I do this video, and I'm all over the place. So I wanted to record that, just some context what I'm experiencing. And and I'm trying to live a disciplined life. I get up early in the morning, consistently, but it's interrupted, so it's mucking me up all the time. Then you get all this mischief through the day, like your thermostat's interfered with because it's digital, or your clock's on your computer, and you think, oh, my battery's flat. You change the battery. No, someone's changing the times every time so you got to keep an eye on it and check it every day. All these little nuisances, all this little mischief. It's just little virtual pet. Blah, 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 blah. These people just get bored with it, really, and then they feel ashamed because they're like cowards. And then you get a new wave of them or something, and then these people are groomed to do it and deceived and or compromised. You get good people who are lied about a person so they can justify their scientific social engineering, top national security clearance, keep your mouth shut, deniable practices. So they experience it, and they wake up to it. And then you get the dark arm, the criminal, are just wild with it, absolutely nasty with it. And some of them end up getting, zapped or turned over with it, and you don't hear of them again. And then they just peel away, wave after wave. There's always a new wave of replacements. And I think this is how it's like staff rotation. You get all these complaints. You put all these soppy-doppy people who you look after and treat well, and they defend you to the death. And when they've sucked up enough complaint and abuse because of all the lies, and it's just a way of keeping you away from the head, they get rid of them or move them around. So they're rotating the staff, and they're giving you conflicting witnesses. They're denying that they received letters, that phone call never happened. Oh, we don't know where that staff member is. And it's the same sort of thing that doctors, receptionists, they don't want, they use the excuse, oh, we don't want our doctors overburdened. But when there's a real need to just directly speak to your doctor for a second, and they've asked you, and you've got to go through this, oh no, sorry, you're not allowed to speak to the doctor. You get this firewall, because that's what they've been put there for. And they take it upon themselves to think, oh, who can I give an appointment, who I can't. And that can be manipulated by a rumour about a certain individual, because they can look into your business. Medical people can look into your file, have a good laugh. They've done it in front of me personally, and you go, well, thanks, that really makes me feel, like you're mocking me. And they misunderstood what you're saying, and then they start mocking you over it, thinking you're a doolally dingbat, Billy no mates. And they've been to university. Wally doesn't know what we know. You go, you fools. You don't even know how to treat a person. And then you get caught up in these models. and they've been trained what to do. They're just pressing the buttons and what they've been told to do, and learning from that experience. They don't know what they're doing a lot of the time. It's trial and error. It's like doctors. Oh, try this, try that, eliminate all this, all that, and then try and get to the bottom of it. We think we got it now. Test come back, it confirms it. You know, it takes time. But with mental health, it's a different. No one has any right to go in your head, because with medicine you can show you know what you're doing, but with mental health you don't have to. You just can. All you got to do is show that you can take on information and repeat it and understand what that information is. Doesn't make the information correct, but that will seal you with the stamp of approval to not only be to have power over somebody, but potentially to take somebody's life and rights away on the back of a lie. He's an unfit human being. Manage. This is how they do it. Psychiatry, psychologists, and they utilise the idiots and donuts in there and regulate them, and they act haughtily and blindly because they've been puffed up, stroked, and they act faithfully, and they think they're loyal and right, and they get this all high and mighty attitude, and they don't see it, and they're controlled. They're controlled components, because they're going to have a certain effect on people, and the certain effect is that they completely dismiss, because that's what they're meant to do, completely dismiss them, and that's it. That's their qualification, so they can do that role on the stage. But it's all got whistles and bells and lots of money. It costs lots of money. But their expertise is not quite true. It's just to have that power over people and be using naive people to implement it on the back of a lie. Because they're being told lies about me, they've been trained to diagnose this as that, and then they just send the person that they want that diagnosis with. That psychiatrist will diagnose that, but you send another one, he'll diagnose this. You know, people don't look at how it works. They don't study the schools of thought. Oh, some practice this school of thought, some practice this school of thought, and they're both operating at the same time, but not on the same person at the same time, because it would look stupid. So they hide one, and whichever one they want to use, that they will send. You see, I will send that psychiatrist for that result, and if we want the same result for that person, we'll have to send the other one, and then they can do this and red stamp it like, oh, he's unfit, his son's unfit, he's illegally in your care, there's nothing anyone can do about it, bye. We'll have his house, we'll have his pension, and we'll kill him off quickly, and we can cover up the mess. That's what they've got. Potentially they have the power to do that, and potentially people have the power to influence these naive people to do it, because that's the way they've been raised. So I pray for this will be enlightening to people, this will reach people with the gospel, and this will help on, if it's looked at and observed by people in authority and law. I just pray that they view it considerably and look at the whole lot in context, and don't be too hasty to make a judgment, but try and come up with a fair, just assessment of the evidence I've tried, and consider my difficulty, what I've got to carry along each day, plus all the disabilities, and then trying to avoid all the conflict, or even pick up and complain about the conflict, because I'm going to get stamped out whatever I do. So you're left isolated, and then when an emergency comes in your life, you've got nowhere else to go. You have to go back to where they just slaughtered your loved ones, under the eyes of the public. They can't see it, and the authorities can't not necessarily see it. So this is what I'm hoping to expose, an area that could be looked at and legally addressed and corrected. I don't want any compensation, I don't want anyone hung. I want them corrected or removed, and if they don't change, I don't want them operating around people's lives. And I say that not on just on my behalf, but everybody's behalf. I don't want these people around my loved ones. And I don't want people not being aware of these interjections, so that they feel that they can deal with them if they come across them and go, oi, we know about you these little devils. And then they report that, and that person gets out of the hospital on your bike. You know, but I don't want someone to make an example of, so this never happens again, and then all the time nothing's changed. Because that to me, that's just the people who are covering it up, spending all the problem on one and screwing it up in the bin. That's that problem, that'll never happen again. All the time it's going on. So I don't want to see that. I want to see some positive addressing of it lawfully and addressing the need. And those people are victims, and I want those people that to be taken into consideration. Who's guilty of what? Who's been put in that position to do that? And are they involved with actually what's going on as well? But it's the people behind I want it to do. I want the law to go off. I want them to get the top fruit, not the fruit down the poor public who are sick to the teeth of all the hypocrisy and injustices, the favouritism of minorities and the oppression of the other minority, and then they play these games up in the public body. Nobody says anything, they just keep their mouth shut. Let the public suffer it, all the confusion, while they're working all their magic on the telly. You like boss-eyed kids are like, and speedy, racy, gadgets, addicted, stripped away from the watchful eye of their parents, drawn into all this dark devices and grooming, you know, commercial grooming for their money and for their, you know, all the targeted advertising, that's good grooming. All popular culture is grooming. Popular culture, TV programs, grooming, music, grooming, or the use of music in a package. It's grooming. You know, it's not grassroots or rock band that's recorded it all in their garage. There's no whistles and frills, just a plain. It's in the albums in newspaper, or the tape recording of the studio, 8 tracks in a shoebox. And if you want to buy a copy, it's a plastic cassette box with nothing on it. You know, those people won't get off the ground. And they'll be like starving, trying to earn a living, touring, they'll be wearing themselves out. And then if they made a record, no one would play it unless they had an agent, you see, because that's how they're set up and exploited, and the talent's gone in the pocket. Then they do their contracts, sign away, do their deal with the devil kind of thing. Compromise themselves and their talent's choked. Then it's like, oh, we need to shake every year because we're running out of juice, you know, what can we write about? And then they're like under pressure and it doesn't come to them, they dry up, so like you got swept up in the champagne and the cork bubble, and then they come down and then they're desperate. Oh, what, you know, well, you can do this for a few, you know, celebrity show, or, you know, we can do you some of these gigs. Or you owe us 10 more records. I know half your band are dead and killed themselves, but you're responsible for the other ones. I still want what you owe me. You signed a contract. You know, you're robbed, you're raped, and then you're put up in the world's image, and everyone has to follow that image, and it dominates all that's good. Computer game programmers dominated by the corporate, and it's all broken up. So it isn't done all by one guy, one person doing all the work, going out to get somebody to promote it or copy it, print it in a box, print the instructions of how to use it and then utilise it once it's running. No, it has to go through a publisher or a promoter, it has to go through the world system for it. But you know, if something's popular on the ground and they had the means to do that, people would buy that. They wouldn't be bothered about all the whistles and commercial frills. They'd rather give their money to somebody like that than this commercial racket that these people are exploited by to exploit other people. and people just are blinded by it every day and blinkered to what's really going on. So my prayers and blessings to my brothers and sisters, every single one. I pray whatever our needs are, whatever our circumstances are at this time, today and all day, that the Lord will reach us and bless us, draw us to Him, draw those who are having a hard time back to His singleness and blessing, and He'll just do that for them, and He will comfort, concerns, soothe wounds with His balm and love. So I pray people are safe and protected and have a good day, and are blessed with the joy and thanksgiving of the Lord. I'm going to close there. Wish everybody my love and concern. My dad, praying for my dad. I appreciate people if they would like to copy these, they're welcome to copy them. But if you do that, if you feel like you want to share it with someone because you think there's something in here that may help somebody you know, if you do copy it, please copy the content on the the description box of the video on YouTube, because sometimes I'm correcting things, or it's giving a bit of context about things I haven't included on the video, and it's an afterthought, and it does help to, some of the things do help, some will, just not irrelevant, it's just additional. I get carried away sometimes. So, but bear that in mind. If you do, people are welcome to copy them, share them, and use them for the right reasons, the right motive. I appreciate that, and I appreciate them being stored, so in case my records get destroyed. And I trust the Lord, but you still got to help yourself. So I'm just doing these things precautionally. So I appreciate people's backup, prayer, support, and sharing these for so people with any difficulty, and hope of the simplicity of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I'm going to close there, and Maranatha, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.